In our headlines on this Tuesday, March 10th, here in South Korea, Trump claims his military operation against Iran is, quote, very complete and could be, quote, over soon, even as Iran appears to align behind a new hardline supreme leader. Meanwhile, the local stock market regains ground as global oil prices ease in response to Mr. Trump's words of reassurance about the fate of the unrest in the Middle East. And President Lee Jae-myung suggests a supplementary budget to ease the impact of the events in the Middle East on the South Korean economy. We start with the most recent remarks by the U.S. President with regard to the fate of his military operation against Iran. Our Park Jun-han reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday told members of the press in Florida that the war with Iran is nearing its end and that it's the beginning of building a new country.
They were going to take over the Middle East and they were going to try and destroy Israel. So we stopped it with good timing, and we're very proud to be involved in this, and it's going to be ended soon. And if it starts up again, they'll be hit even harder.
Following a reporter's question about what he meant when he stated that the U.S. was already victorious but had not won enough, Trump said that ultimately he wanted to stop Iran from having the capacity to develop weapons that could be used to strike the U.S., Israel, or any U.S. allies. He also reiterated that Iran was preparing to strike U.S. allies and attempt to take over the Middle East if the United States had not acted first. Trump also said he spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Monday regarding the settlement of conflicts in the Middle East and between Russia and Ukraine. He said Putin wants to be helpful with the situation in the Middle East and added that he told Putin that being helpful would be ending the war with Ukraine. Since the war started on February 28th, U.S. and Israeli strikes have hit military command centers, nuclear sites, missile and air defense facilities, and oil infrastructures, severely degrading Iran's military capabilities. Trump said he was disappointed with Iran's decision to appoint Mostafa Khamenei, the son of the former Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed in an airstrike at the beginning of the war, as the new leader. He also warned Iran against further escalation and hinted at potential U.S. control over the Strait of Hormuz, a key route used for importing over 70% of South Korea's oil. Iran announced plans to expand missile range, power, and frequency as Iran's IRGC Aerospace Force commander Majid Musavi said missiles with warheads under 1,000 kilograms will no longer be launched, signaling a focus on heavier systems. Park Jun-han, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, a pledge of action by finance ministers under the Group of Seven served to push down soaring global oil prices and to prop up the U.S. stock market. Our Lee Seung-jae has details.
Global oil markets and U.S. stocks swung sharply on Monday as investors reacted to developments in the Iran war. Oil prices initially surged on rising tensions in the Middle East. Brent crude briefly climbed to nearly $120 per barrel after reports that Turkey intercepted a ballistic missile launched from Iran using a NATO air defense system in the eastern Mediterranean. It was the second time Turkey shot down an Iranian missile this month, raising concerns about possible escalation involving a NATO member. However, prices later reversed after the Group of Seven countries signaled a coordinated release of strategic oil reserves if supply disruptions worsen.
And we stand ready to take necessary measures such as stockpile release. G7 energy ministers will take this discussion forward already tomorrow.
You saw the French declaration that we are now also keeping open the option of drawing on national oil reserves. Now is not the right time, but we, including Germany, are open to doing so in a coordinated process at the appropriate time.
Following the announcement, Brent crude fell about 8% to around $84 per barrel, while U.S. benchmark West Texas Intermediate dropped by roughly 9% to about $81. The New York Stock Exchange saw similar volatility. Major indexes opened more than 1% lower, but rebounded after news of the possible G7 reserve release and comments from Trump suggesting the war was as good as over. During a phone interview with CBS News, Trump said the conflict was very complete, pretty much, claiming Iran's military capabilities have been largely destroyed, including its navy, communication systems, and air force. He added that Iran's remaining missiles are scattered and that its drones and drone manufacturing facilities are being destroyed across the country. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And the benchmark KOSPI index drove ahead a regional rebound as global oil prices eased and Wall Street gained. Our correspondent Kim Do-yeon covers the day's trade and more.
South Korea's benchmark KOSPI closed at 5,532.59 on Tuesday, up 5.35% from the day before, showing heavy swings that even triggered a buy-side sidecar in early trading. This is significant as it followed a steep decline that triggered a circuit breaker just the day before. The gains came amid remarks from U.S. President Donald Trump hinting that the conflict between the United States and Iran was very complete. Since Operation Epic Fury began early this month, the benchmark KOSPI has shown extreme fluctuations, triggering both sell-side and buy-side sidecars nearly every trading day. After closing at 5,791.91 on March 3rd, the index plunged 12.06% the next day to 5,093.54. It then rebounded 9.63% on March 5th to 5,583.90. Of the 9 sidecars, 5 were sell-side halts triggered during steep market declines, while 4 were buy-side ones activated during rapid rebounds. The volatility continued with a 5.96% drop on Monday to 5,251.87 before surging on Tuesday. Experts say the severe stock volatility is closely tied to the $1 exchange rate as well, with the greenback also fluctuating sharply amid the geopolitical crisis.
The South Korean stock market is an inefficient market dominated by foreign investors who account for about 35% and act as major players. When they buy, stock prices rise, and when they pull out to realize profits, prices fall.
Meanwhile, the Korean won is also fluctuating as it recovered on Tuesday after the exchange rate touched 1,500 won against the dollar at one point during the recent turmoil. With the same reasoning behind the KOSPI's moves, the won closed at 1,469.31 per dollar, down 26.21 from the day before. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Also, on the local front, President Lee Jae-myung has highlighted the importance of preparation and related action in response to the situation in the Middle East to cushion the blow of a broader economic fallout. Our Blue House correspondent Song Yoo-jin reports.
As tensions in the Middle East enter their second week following the U.S. military strikes on Iran, President Lee Jae-myung told his cabinet that their role is more critical than ever.
과거 어느 때보다도 더 절박하게 또 충실하게 최선을 다하면 지금의 상황을 더 나은 상황으로 만들 수 있다.
Presiding over a cabinet meeting on Tuesday, Lee said stabilizing prices is the government's most urgent task as uncertainty grows in energy supplies, logistics, and financial markets. The government plans to introduce a temporary price ceiling on petroleum products within the week. President Lee instructed the finance minister to ensure the measure minimizes the burden on customers.
생산원가가 올랐다. 그거 하면 그 시점에는 다시 또 최고 가격을 변경해야 되는데 기존에 이미 한 열흘 이상 이렇게 이미 올려받은 부분 그 부분을 고려해서 실제 유가가 오르더라도 그때 바로 최고 가격을 올리지 말고
He proposed imposing a price cap during last week's extraordinary cabinet meeting. He warned of possible price gouging by oil refiners, citing rising fuel prices, despite South Korea holding petroleum reserves equivalent to 7 months of supply. The Fair Trade Commission has launched an investigation into possible collusion among refiners. The president even mentioned preparing a supplementary budget to ease the burden on consumers if the Middle East situation drags on.
We could consider cutting fuel taxes on gasoline by another 10% or increasing direct support. A combination of such measures could help ease polarization while protecting people's livelihoods.
이번 어차피 조기에 추경을 해야 될 상황인 것 같으니까. 지금 재정 지원이나 소상공인 지원이나 뭐 한계 기업들 지원인 뭐 등등 할래도 좀 추가의 재정이.
South Korea currently maintains a 7% tax cut on gasoline, with the maximum reduction capped at 37%. These discussions come as the Blue House has designated this week as an all-out response week to address developments in the Middle East, with the focus on public safety and economic stability. 송유진, Arirang News.
In other news now, South Korea's gross national income per capita rose last year, but the rise was limited in light of a weaker won. According to the Bank of Korea, the GNI per capita amounted to $36,855 in 2025, up 0.3% on year. The figure has been on an upward trend for 3 years in a row. Nominal GDP grew over 4% in terms of the local currency, but the weaker won translates to a 0.1% decline in dollar terms. Accordingly, South Korea's sum hovers below Taiwan's GNI per capita, which stands in the $45,000 range, as well as Japan's, which is in the $38,000 range. North Korea's Kim Yo-jong has denounced the annual ROK-U.S. defense drills currently underway, calling them a rehearsal for war that will hurt regional security. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung reports.
Kim Yo-jong, the sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and a department director of the ruling Workers' Party of Korea, warned on Tuesday about the joint military drills between South Korea and the U.S. In a statement carried by the Korean Central News Agency, she said hostile forces' military demonstrations near the regime's sovereign and security areas could lead to unimaginably terrible consequences. Calling the drills a provocative and aggressive war rehearsal, Kim said that regardless of any justification or adjustments, the exercise remains a large-scale, high-intensity war drill. Citing current global geopolitical crises and international conflicts, she added that such actions by enemy states should be met not with proportional responses, but with an overwhelmingly powerful and preemptive offensive. An expert said the remarks appear to be sending a message to the U.S. after its strikes on Iran.
It warns about the U.S.-South Korea joint military exercises, but indirectly it is also sending a message that, unlike Iran, North Korea would immediately retaliate with nuclear weapons if attacked.
Referring to what North Korean leader Kim Jong-un previously said, his sister again stressed the regime's law and iron principle that the strongest offensive capability is the most reliable deterrent. The expert added that while there could be provocations during the drills, they are unlikely to be serious.
It indirectly suggests that North Korea may stage a show of force if U.S. strategic assets are deployed to the Korean peninsula during the joint exercises. The provocation would most likely be launching a ballistic missile, with stronger provocation like an ICBM considered less likely.
South Korea and the U.S. began the annual springtime joint drills, Freedom Shield, starting Monday. The number of troops participating in the exercise is similar to last year, though the number of field training exercises has more than halved to 22 from 51 last year. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
And North Korea's Kim Jong-un has thanked his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping for the latter's congratulations in light of the former's reappointment as General Secretary of the ruling Workers' Party. According to the regime state media on this Tuesday, Kim sent a message the day prior, sharing his deep gratitude for the acknowledgement. He also spoke of advancements in their, quote, common socialist cause amid the demands of a new era. Back here on the local front, a contentious labor law takes effect today amid sharply divergent views between business groups and labor unions. Our political correspondent Rihanna explains.
South Korea's controversial so-called yellow envelope law took effect on Tuesday after a 6-month preparation period, bringing major changes to labor relations and collective bargaining. The revised labor law expands the definition of an employer and the scope of labor disputes, while limiting companies' ability to claim damages from workers involved in strikes. One of the most significant changes strengthens responsibility for subcontracted workers. Under the new rules, parent companies may be required to negotiate with subcontractor unions if they are found to exercise substantial control over those workers' conditions such as working hours and methods. Previously, negotiations were generally limited to unions representing workers directly employed by a company. The law also broadens the definition of labor disputes. In addition to decisions directly setting working conditions, disputes can now include management decisions that significantly affect them, such as restructuring or layoffs tied to overseas investment or factory expansion. The government says it spent the past 6 months preparing implementation guidelines and manuals to help companies and unions adjust to the new system. However, the law remains controversial. Business groups warn it could increase labor disputes, arguing that uncertainty over who qualifies as an employer may trigger conflicts at work sites. Labor groups, while welcoming the law, says it still falls short of fully guaranteeing bargaining rights. On the first day of implementation, several labor groups staged rallies and press conferences across Seoul, demanding direct negotiations with parent companies. Unions representing delivery workers, airport subcontractors, and university cleaners called on what they described as the real employers to come to the bargaining table. During a speech marking the 80th anniversary of the Federation of Korean Trade Unions, President Lee Jae-myung said he hopes the law will serve as a starting point for subcontracted workers and parent companies to resolve disputes through dialogue and compromise. The Labour Ministry expects some confusion in the early stages of implementation and says it will provide continued support. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, quite a number of K-pop industry heavyweights have been included in this year's Billboard Global Pop Players list. The list applauds the efforts of individuals outside of the U.S. and includes HYBE chairman Bang Si-hyuk, JYP Entertainment founder Park Jin-young, SM Entertainment co-CEOs Chang Chol-hyuk and Tak Young-jun, as well as Kakao Entertainment co-CEO Joseph Chang. Both Chang and Bang are on the list for the 5th time. And as the adage goes, old is gold, and young Koreans are now turning to traditional therapeutic practices as modern wellness options. Our Cho Young-eun files this report.
Opening the door, a slightly smoky herbal scent of mugwort fills the air. The shop specializes in traditional Korean Moxibustion therapy, which uses heat and smoke of burning mugwort. Customers lie on treatment beds, relaxing as the heated mugwort is first placed beneath their feet. The therapy continues with fumigation treatment along the back before mechanical Moxibustion devices are set on the stomach to deliver steady warmth.
My hands and feet tend to get cold, and I often feel tired. I heard mugwort Moxibustion is good for your health, so I looked for a place near my home and decided to try it.
Nearby, a rice enzyme spa, once mainly enjoyed by older generations, now offers another popular wellness experience for younger visitors. Here, people bury themselves in warm fermented rice bran, leaving only their faces exposed. The heat generated from fermentation is believed to help detoxify the body, improve blood circulation, and strengthen the immunity system.
In the past, most visitors were older people. But these days, many younger customers are coming too, after seeing it on social media or YouTube.
Spaces like this are redefining traditional therapy as a modern healing experience to recharge both the body and mind. Experts say the trend reflects how the digitally native generation treat traditional wellness practices as shareable experiences.
Nowadays, when people see something on social media that's said to be good for their health, they want to try it themselves. Experience-based consumption has become a major trend.
The relatively affordable price of these activities has helped them emerge as a cost-effective wellness experience, As younger generations explore new ways to care for their health, traditional health practices are finding new life in Korea today. 조영은, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. In Lebanon, around 700,000 people have been forced to flee their homes as fighting between Israel and Hezbollah enters its second week. The Lebanese Health Ministry reports that Israeli attacks have killed nearly 500 people. Airstrikes on Monday hit 5 branches of a Hezbollah-linked financial institution in Beirut's southern suburbs, following Israeli evacuation orders for the area. UNICEF confirms that the displaced in Lebanon include 200,000 children. Meanwhile, Hezbollah fired missiles towards central Israel, triggering air raid sirens in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. In the U.S., federal prosecutors on Monday charged 2 Pennsylvania men with terrorism-related crimes following an attempted bombing near the New York City mayor's official residence. 18-year-old Amir Ballet and 19-year-old Ibrahim Kayumi traveled to Manhattan on Saturday to target an anti-Islam rally at Gracie Mansion. According to federal court records, both suspects cited the Islamic State as their inspiration and expressed intent to carry out a large-scale attack. Police intercepted the improvised explosive devices, which contained explosive substance TATP. Mayor Zoran Mamdani, who was not home during the incident, condemned the violence and said that New York City will not tolerate terrorism. AI giant Anthropic has filed a lawsuit to block the Pentagon from placing the company on a national security blacklist. The legal action on Monday follows Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's decision to designate Anthropic as a supply chain risk after the company refused to remove guardrails against using its AI for autonomous weapons. Anthropic argues the designation violates its free speech and due process rights. The Pentagon maintains that U.S. law, not private companies, determines the use of AI for national defense. Los Angeles police arrested a 35-year-old woman on Monday after she allegedly fired a rifle at pop star Rihanna's gated estate. Authorities responded to reports of 10 gunshots in the Beverly Hills area on Sunday afternoon and recovered a weapon at the scene. Investigators found at least 5 bullet holes in the front gate of the property, though no injuries were reported. The suspect, identified in news reports as Ivana Ortiz, remains in custody on suspicion of attempted murder with bail set at $10 million. It remains unclear if Rihanna or her family were inside the residence at the time. Police have not yet established a motive or a known connection between the suspect and the pop star. Chu Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
Dust that flowed in from overseas yesterday, combined with locally generated pollution, has been lingering due to stagnant air. And ultrafine dust levels stayed at bad levels across most regions today, and the haze could linger into tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Gyeongsangdo region is having very dry conditions. Dry weather advisories have been issued for parts of the region, including Daegu and Busan. And you know, what's up with the temperatures? Mornings still feel winter-like with sub-zero temperatures. And even tomorrow, Seoul, Daegu, and Gwangju will begin the day at just 0 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 8 degrees under cloudier skies, Daejeon topping out at 9 degrees Celsius. Now, temperatures will go up higher as the week goes on with wide daily temperature swings, so take care. With that in mind, here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Right, those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. As always, thank you for watching.